The sound of paper tearing sliced through the sterile quiet of my lab as my mother ripped apart my life's work. Her face was twisted with fury. "Your brother needs this estate more than you, Emma. He has a family to support," she shouted, flinging a decade's worth of genetic research into the air. I stood frozen, watching my carefully labeled files float down like broken wings. 10 years of studying genetic markers, unraveling hereditary patterns, and tracing the mysterious blood disorder running through our lineage, all crumpling under her rage. All because grandfather had left the estate to me instead of her golden boy, Michael. "Mom, stop," I said, quieter than I felt. "Grandfather chose me for a reason. He believed in my research." She spun around, her designer heels clicking against the lab floor, wildly out of place here. "Research? You mean hiding away with your test tubes while your brother builds a real life? He has 3 children, Emma. What do you have?" "Notes." I thought about the letter grandfather had left me, still locked in my personal safe. It explained everything. But I hadn't shown it to anyone. "This isn't about Michael's family," I replied. "It's about continuing grandfather's work." Mom scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "Work? Your grandfather was a businessman. The estate should go to someone who understands that. Michael has an MBA. You? A PhD in playing with DNA." I almost smiled at that, almost. Because Jonathan Pierce wasn't just a businessman. He was a brilliant geneticist who hid his research behind a corporate empire. And now they were trying to erase the one thing he passed down that truly mattered. "The estate isn't just money, Mom," I began, but she was already ripping open another cabinet. $2 million. The house. The lab. "It should be shared," she snapped. "Your father and I have decided. You'll sign it over to Michael." "No," I said, finally firm. She froze. Her eyes narrowed. "Your father is on his way. Don't make this difficult, Emma. Family means sharing." "No," I corrected. "Family means understanding. And you've never once tried to understand what I do." The lab door slammed open. My father marched in, Michael trailing behind him with his signature smugness. "This ends now," Dad barked. "Your brother needs this estate. Stop being selfish." I looked at Michael, polished, successful, and utterly clueless about what our grandfather had truly left behind. "The lawyers will be here tomorrow," Dad continued. "Sign the papers or we'll contest the will." Smiled. Not out of spite but certainty. "Actually," I said, "I already called the lawyer. He'll be here in an hour. There's something you all need to see." Michael's confidence faltered. "What are you talking about? Grandfather left me more than an estate. He left me the truth." I walked to my safe and unlocked it. Inside were 2 things: grandfather's letter and the sealed envelope he left with his attorney. Mom began hurriedly gathering the papers she'd thrown, realizing, too late, they weren't just notes. "What truth?" she snapped. "Stop being dramatic, Emma." I turned, holding the letter tightly. "The truth about our bloodline. About the disorder that runs through our family. About why grandfather spent 4 decades hiding behind a business when his real work was genetic research." My father paled. "Emma, whatever you think you know." "I know," I cut in. "And soon so will you." The next hour stretched painfully. Mom oscillated between scolding and pleading. Dad whispered into his phone in agitated bursts. Michael stayed quiet, though something resembling fear flickered in his eyes. Then James Morton, our family's lawyer, arrived. He looked grave, briefcase in hand. "Shall we begin?" he asked. I nodded, placing my untouched backup files on the desk. "It's time." James laid out a series of documents. Grandfather's notes, DNA test results, and the final report from 1985. As each page was revealed, the faces around me morphed, from confusion to disbelief and finally dread. My mother's hands trembled. My father looked like he might collapse. Michael just stared, color draining from his face. "These documents," James began gently, show that Jonathan Pierce conducted extensive genetic studies on your family line. His findings were significant. No, my father cut in. There has to be some mistake. There's no mistake, I said, laying my research next to grandfather's. I've spent 10 years confirming what he suspected. Our blood disorder isn't random. It's the result of a different genetic lineage. Michael spoke, voice shaking. What do you mean? I looked him in the eye. Dad isn't grandfather's biological son.
Go ahead and
Silence fell like a guillotine. My mother staggered, grabbing the desk for support. My father sat down hard, eyes hollow. Michael backed away. You're lying, he said. This is a stunt. James cleared his throat. It's the truth. Your grandfather knew but chose silence, for your grandmother's sake. However, he left specific instructions. The estate goes to Emma. She alone understood the legacy he hoped to preserve. James produced the original letter, untouched since the day grandfather signed it. I stood there, grounded by the decades of science behind me. The truth had finally come to light. And nothing, not money, not guilt, not even blood, could bury it again. You're not even his real grandson, I said softly. Michael's eyes widened. But I'm his grandson, his only grandson. Biologically, I replied. You're not related to him at all. Neither is Dad. Grandmother had an affair before he was born. Grandfather discovered the truth while researching our family's blood disorder. The inheritance patterns didn't add up, and neither did the DNA. Dad shot up from his chair, face flushed with anger. You had no right to dig this up, he growled. No right to destroy this family. I didn't destroy anything, I said, my voice steady. I finished what grandfather started. He wanted the truth uncovered. Methodically, scientifically. That's why he left everything to me. Everything. Mom whispered, the weight of it hitting her. James, the lawyer, nodded solemnly. The estate, the lab, and all of Jonathan's research. He was more than a businessman. He used his success to fund something far more important. Emma is the only one capable of carrying on that work. I walked to my research bench and pulled out one final file. There's more, I said. Grandfather's research wasn't just about our family. He discovered something critical, patterns of inheritance that could change how we treat genetic diseases. That's what I've been working on, turning his discoveries into breakthroughs. Mom burst into hysterical laughter. Help people. You've torn your own family apart. No, I answered. I've revealed the truth. That's not the same as destroying anything. I turned to Michael, who was still frozen, staring at the DNA results. We're still siblings in every way that matters. But this explains why grandfather chose me. Why he knew I could continue his legacy. Michael's voice was sharp. You're not even really his granddaughter either. James cleared his throat. Actually, she is. Emma is Jonathan's only biological grandchild. The room went silent. I reached into the folder and pulled out one last document. My DNA test. Grandfather had this done when I was born. Mom had an affair too, with his youngest son from his first marriage. My biological father. My mother gasped, hands covering her face as it all unraveled. That's why I inherited grandfather's scientific intuition, his mind. That's why he encouraged my education so intensely. He knew. The air in the lab was heavy with truth. Dad looked shattered. Mom broke into sobs. Michael looked lost. The estate stays with Emma, James said firmly. And given the significance of this research, I suggest everyone take time to process this before making further decisions. They filed out of the lab, shoulders slumped, world unrecognizably changed. Only Michael stayed behind. He turned to me, voice low. Did you know? All this time. I shook my head. No. I found out just like grandfather did, through the research. He didn't want to hurt anyone. He wanted the truth handled carefully. Michael nodded, then left. James lingered a moment longer. Your grandfather would be proud, he said quietly. You handled this exactly as he hoped. I looked around at the wreckage of my lab. Papers on the floor, data exposed, secrets no longer secrets. And I felt calm. The truth was out. But it was only the beginning. 1 month later, I stood in my grandfather's old study, now mine, surrounded by his books and the weight of his legacy. The past few weeks had been a storm. Dad hadn't spoken to me since that day. He buried himself in work. Surprisingly, it was Mom who showed up first. 3 days after the lab confrontation, she walked in teary-eyed. I never told anyone, she whispered. About James, your real father. I thought I'd taken that secret to the grave. Grandfather knew, I said gently. He still loved you. He just wanted the truth to come out after he was gone. She broke down then, confessing everything. About the summer she fell in love with James. About the pregnancy. About how grandfather figured it out when I was 5. You looked at things the same way he did, she said. The same hunger for answers. That's when Jonathan started digging into the genetics. As I sorted his old files, I found photos I'd never seen. James, my father, working in the lab. He had my eyes. In one photo, he and grandfather bent over a microscope, grinning like children discovering magic. Michael surprised me too. A week later he returned, nervous, hesitant. I've been thinking, he said. Maybe we could work together. I don't know genetics, but I know business. If you're turning this into treatments, smiled. I could use your help. Grandfather wanted to build a research foundation. Now he came by twice a week, helping me navigate medical patents and funding proposals. He was slowly finding a role and a purpose. Then James Morton appeared again, this time holding a final sealed letter. Grandfather's last words, meant to be opened a month after the truth came out. A letter. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, then everything has gone as I hoped. The truth is out. And though painful, it was necessary. Our family was built on secrets, but you were meant to be the one to bring them into the light. Your father, my James, was the brightest mind I ever knew. Losing him nearly destroyed me, until I realized he left behind something even more extraordinary. You. Watching you grow, I saw his brilliance all over again. You weren't just my granddaughter. You were the continuation of everything James and I had worked toward. The research you've been pursuing is more important than even you realize. We uncovered something fundamental about genetic inheritance. It has the potential to revolutionize medicine. But it had to remain private, free from corporate interference. That's why I built the empire. To fund the science. The real legacy. In the hidden safe behind my desk, combination 23-17-42, you'll find our original notes. Preliminary trials. The missing pieces you've been searching for. I believe you're ready now. You are not just my heir, Emma. You are the culmination of 3 generations of purpose. Hands trembling, I opened the hidden safe. Inside were files so much deeper and more advanced than I imagined. Grandfather and James had nearly reached breakthroughs I'd only just begun to understand. My phone buzzed. A message from Michael. Meeting with patent lawyers next week. You ready for this? I looked at the photo of James, bent over a microscope, and smiled. Yes, I replied. It's time. The truth had shaken us. But from the fracture, something stronger was growing. Not just a family by blood, but by shared vision. Sometimes things have to fall apart before they can be rebuilt. I opened the first file and began to read, ready to carry the legacy forward.